Hey everyone, Sam Ovens here, and in today's video I want to decode the billionaire's mind. And what I want to do is take you inside the mind of a billionaire and really show you what it is, how it works, and how it is fundamentally different in pretty much every way, shape and form from the average person's mind. Now, why this has been a point of interest for me is because personally I've been trying to learn how to become more successful and how to function at a higher level. Because, behind success isn't really magic. It's always cause and effect. And there are actions that people have taken in their life that have had profound impacts that have allowed them to become successful. It didn't happen just by chance. It happened by taking specific actions. Now, what causes somebody to take an action is thinking. It's analysis, it's rationalizing, and it's viewing things and making trade-offs every single day. And the piece of you that is responsible for that is the mind. And so if we reverse engineer this thing back, actions create success, thoughts create actions, then the mind creates the thoughts, then, really what's lying at the base of success is your mind and your mental function and how your mind works. And so that's why it's been a real point of obsession for me to study billionaires, and not just billionaires, but really successful people in every different field, from athletes to musicians to military leaders to all sorts of different people from all different eras, and to really pull apart their mind and really decode their mind and figure out how it worked and why it enabled them to see things more clear than the average person and make better decisions and take better actions, which is how they came to get to where they are. So that's why it's been a real point of focus for me to really study the billionaire's mind and really successful people's minds, so that I could then assemble one of those minds inside my own mind. And so that's what I've been trying to do for the past 6 years. And I'm not a billionaire yet, but, so far I've been able to go from living in my parents' garage and with $0 at all, I didn't even have a college degree or anything, to starting consulting.com, my company, and growing it to the point now where it's making around $30 million a year. And all of that happened in about 5-6 years. So, I'm by no means a billionaire, but I have studied these people's minds a lot, and I've been able to reverse engineer it back to specific things that not only myself, but you can do, starting today, so that you can dramatically improve the decisions that you make, the trade-offs that you make, and the actions that you take every day. And that's going to have an impact on your success in life and in business, or whatever your field is. Now, the reason why I really wanted to dig into this and study it is because this thing has always interested me. Why, if you take one person and you put them into contact with some information, and this information could be an online course, it could be a university degree, it could be a book, it could be anything. But let's say you have a person, they come into contact with information, and that results in massive success. Let's say this person becomes a billionaire, right? But then let's say we have another person and they come into contact with the exact same information. So the information variable here is identical, right? So two different people, but very similar, come into contact with identical information. One output is, a billionaire. The other output is, a complete failure, right? So why is that? Why can two people come into contact with the same information and get inverted, dramatically, extreme results? Why is that? And why that is because it's not about the information. The information plays a role, but it's not the main part. The main part of this is actually the human's mind. That is, the main piece here. And what's fascinating is the way we look at education and online courses and everything is we just look purely at the information side. we think, okay, let's just get these people to learn this information and they should get this result. Because someone came into contact with this information, the output was this, so therefore we should just force this upon everyone and that output should be the same, or to varying degrees the same. But what we see in the world and what we see, every day is this. We don't have a homogeneous output, we have wildly varying outputs. And it's because, we've never really looked inside these people's minds and how that works. And what I've really tried to do is dig into this. I've studied other people's minds, my own, and I've even, been, my business, consulting.com, what we do is we help people start their own businesses from scratch. So we take people who have no experience with business or anything, and we have to teach them everything and help them make that dramatic transformation into starting a business and being successful with it. And that's a huge shift. And so I've observed 20,000 people over 5 years go through this, and I've observed what happens and the people who have trouble with it, the people who do okay with it, and the people who get extremely good results with it. And it's fascinated me, and I've really dug into this and looked at it. And what I've found is that there are layers too, like every human's mind, every human's brain. There are layers. And what's fascinating is that when we go to learn a specific skill, like let's say the specific skill is going to be, how to run Facebook ads, right? So that specific skill is going to be up here on this processes layer, or this process layer. And beneath this, we have like a business discipline layer. And so this layer here is, so I'll write this on so you guys can see it. So here we have like processes, and then on this layer here we have business disciplines, and then on the layer beneath it we have business principles. And then on the layer beneath this one, we have, this one here is mental cognition. And then the layer beneath it, we have mental awareness. Now you're probably thinking, what are these things? Why are we talking about these things? Well, let me explain all of them. So if somebody, and I see this happen every single day, somebody will come in and they want to start a business or be an entrepreneur, and they think, okay, well, what do I need to learn? All right, the hot topic is like Facebook ads, and so I'm going to come right in and just learn all about Facebook ads. And so they go in and they do that, and what they're doing is they're acquiring a specific process skill, like this one little block here, and they're acquiring this skill, but it's operating on top of all of these layers. And the best way to think about this is, you've got like an operating system on your computer, like Windows or Mac operating system, and then on top of that you can install applications like Microsoft Word or Keynote or different things. And then within those, you can create different files and create different things like that. Now, if you install like a specific software application on a bad operating system, like let's say you try to install a Microsoft Windows application on Mac OS, it's not even going to install. Or let's say you install like a real memory hungry application, like some sort of graphics, heavy graphical interface sort of application on top of an operating system that's outdated with not much RAM and not much available memory and hard drive space. Well, that application is going to be running very poorly. It's going to be extremely inefficient, and it's not even going to really function. And this is what I see happen in business every single day, is people are just trying to learn these processes and these specific things, but their foundations of their mind are like in seriously poor condition. And basically what they're doing is trying to install like how to run Facebook ads on top of really no knowledge of business disciplines, no knowledge of business principles, and poor mental cognition and poor mental awareness. And when this happens, it's just like building a house on top of sand. It doesn't matter if you get like a multi-million-dollar house with the fanciest design and everything. If you lay that thing on top of sand, it's going to fall over and it's going to be completely useless. And people don't look at these layers beneath, and they don't work on these layers beneath, and then they wonder why these things up here don't work for them, and they wonder why things are glitching up here. And this is why two people can come into contact with the same information and get different results, because it depends on the layers of the person's mind. Somebody who's more aware, with better, sharper cognition, and with better business principles, and a wider array of business disciplines, is going to learn information and perceive information in an entirely different way. And let me give you a perfect example of this. Let's say that somebody, is much more aware and has much better problem-solving abilities and much better critical thinking abilities and lots of different mental models to run things through. And then on the business principles layer, this person has a really solid kind of paradigm and ideology of how they like to run their business, and they've got some values and some principles they like to follow. And then up here on the business disciplines layer, let's say this person understands accounting, they understand tax, and they understand sales, and they understand marketing and product development, and they understand management as well, and looking after teams and all of that. Well, now if that person, if they learn how to run Facebook ads, when they're going through that information, they're going to see all of these connections all over the place that the other person can't see because they don't have this base foundation. So the person who's got all of that and they're learning Facebook ads, they're going to think, oh, this is how Facebook ads would affect the P&L. This is how Facebook ads would affect the balance sheet. Or this is how Facebook ads would make that thing work. Or this is how sales kind of comes in and interrelates with Facebook ads. And this is how product development comes in and connects with Facebook ads. They're starting to connect all of these different dots between all of these different layers. And then their style and their method and their way of running Facebook ads is going to be massively influenced by these lower layers, because every single layer of your mind, the layer above it inherits everything from the layers below. So if you have really poor awareness and self-discipline, if you're at this awareness layer, if you're not able to catch things, if your attention span is really short, and if you've got really destructive behaviors and habits, and if you also have a poor sense of identity, and you've got a lot of delusions and false beliefs and things like this, then if this person tries to learn anything, it's game over. This person has problems just sitting in front of the computer for an hour and watching a video that's longer than 2 minutes, let alone starting a damn business. So this person here, it doesn't matter what they learn, they're screwed. And the person with bad mental cognition, it doesn't matter what they learn, they're screwed. So these layers down here are of extreme importance. And so this is how we can get these massively differing results. The person who becomes a billionaire from this information, they're able to see all of the different interconnections, and they have really solid foundations that they're able to just take this information, apply it between all of these different things, and then execute it as a functioning business, or executing it as a functioning anything and making a massive difference. Whereas the other person just sees words, because all that is to them is words. And a classic example of the other person is when they learn Facebook ads, they're thinking, well, how does this work financially? How does this, if I spend money on ads, how does this come back? Is that going to be a profit or a loss? They're already breaking down mentally. And then, because their awareness and everything is so bad, they're not even going to be able to sit down in front of the screen and write Facebook ads for an extended period of time because their attention span is so horrible. And then they're going to have no mental cognition skills. They're not going to be able to problem solve things when problems arise, and problems always arise. You know, one thing we can guarantee is that problems are coming. They come every day, all the time. It's non-stop. And so if you're not good at solving problems and thinking critically, then, you know, none of this is really going to work. And this is what nobody is really teaching anyone, anywhere, ever. Like, people are just teaching skills these days. You know, when I look outside and I look at, like, entrepreneurs and these different things they're learning specific skills, processes, or tools, and they're installing it on top of, you know, of nothing. And that just results in nothing. And they don't want to look at these layers beneath because they think, oh, that's just some like woo-woo crap or something that doesn't really matter. I just want to learn the technical like nuggets. I want to get those gold nuggets. Well, these are where the gold nuggets are, and you can have a lot of these, but if you don't have these base foundations, you ain't going to make anything happen. Or if you do make something happen, it's going to be short-lived. You're going to self-sabotage it and it's going to crumble. And the moment you face a problem, because you don't have this stuff down the bottom, you're just going to fold. You know, you're just going to completely crumble in the heat of the moment. And that's why billionaires, you know, the billionaire mind is really well built. It has these layers really dialed in. Now what I'm going to do is just walk through each one of these layers and describe it to you so that you can understand what it is and how you can start like working on your mind to make it full stack like this. And that's the kind of term I've come up with to describe this billionaire mind. It's like a full stack mind. And it's when you work on every single layer in the stack and every single different interconnection on the stack, and you master the whole thing instead of just the part. Because if you just have a good part installed on a rotten foundation, the part will rot, right? So mental awareness, what is that? And I'll write these things down for you. So mental awareness is really the first layer. And what it's all about is basically, how am I going to fit this in? I'll just be able to fit it in here. What it's all about is your self-awareness. So how aware you are of yourself and your own thoughts and your own actions and your behaviors and your habits and your tendencies and the patterns that seem to, you know, repeat in your life and in your existence. You know, so someone might be like, well, self-awareness, I know myself is here and I'm aware of that, so I'm self-aware. Yeah, like this is different. This is being incredibly aware of yourself and your thoughts. Basically, you know, when you've got a higher level of self-awareness is when you focus on the patterns of your thoughts instead of the thoughts themselves. So you're kind of taking a third, what's it called? It's called a third-person view of yourself. You're really looking from a bird's eye view on yourself and how you're interacting instead of being kind of stuck in yourself. Now, I'll just close that. Something just popped up on my phone. So you've got self-awareness. You've also got your identity. And your identity massively shapes everything in this stack. And what I mean by this is it's your self-image of who you are. So, you know, there's who you are physically and everything, but then there's who you think you are and how you see yourself and what your self-image is. And this massively shapes everything, because if you think, oh, I'm not good at math and I'm not outgoing and I'm not able to do that, or I don't have much energy or work ethic, then you're going to carry that into everything you do. And so as soon as you come across some math anywhere in this stack or anywhere in your business journey, you're going to be like, oh, no, that's not me. I'm not a math person. And I see this happen all the time. I see it with people often say math or technology. I see it a lot, especially with the older generation. They say, oh, no, technology, that's not me, that's not me. And honestly, guys, it's 2018. If you think technology isn't you, then you are fucked, right? So you need to stop saying that because it's not true, Like, you can't show me this, like, this imprint in your DNA that proves that technology isn't you. You made it up. It's a delusion. You cooked it, and you're believing it, and you have to be the one that pops it. Because it's not true. You can learn technology. If you think you're not good at math, you can learn math, right? And it's also, like, your ability to, it's your belief systems. So what you believe is true and not true about the world. A lot of people have a lot of these, like making money is evil or making money is bad, or, you know, all of these different things. You have to fix all of these before you can really have any success anywhere else in the stack. Everything you learn on top of this base here will get these things inherited into it, right? It's like having a virus in the operating system of your machine and then installing applications on top of it. The virus is just going to just string its way right through everything. And so that's, you know, mental awareness. And I'll put out here, well, I'll just rub out that one here so I've got some space. Now let's talk about the second layer. And there's more things to mental awareness than just this, right? There's a lot more to it, but for the sake of keeping things, you know, brief, I'm just going to mention a few things from each stack. And then the second one is mental cognition. And what this is your ability to problem solve, think critically, and prioritize different things. It's basically the layer in your mind that receives all of these different requests. Like, there's all this different information flying into your mind all the time. Like, oh, maybe I should do that, maybe I should do this thing or do that. And this layer here is responsible for scheduling things. It's like, okay, how important is this? And it weighs it. It weighs its upside, and it weighs its potential downside, and it weighs its effect horizon, and it also looks at all of the other pieces in the system, and then it assigns kind of like a priority when this thing should be executed. Is it critically important for survival? If so, then it should run now, execute now, take the front of the queue, go. Or if it's not so crucial, it should just take, you know, a back position in the queue and get scheduled later on because it's not that important. But also, if something's not important at all, this layer here will just discard of it and just ignore it. So this piece is huge, and I see a lot of entrepreneurs who have some good self-awareness and they've got some good top-level kind of skills and principles and disciplines, but their cognition layer is seriously missing. It's like lacking. And prioritization is a key one. Because I see people all the time, they delay working on the thing that's most important, and they prioritize and obsess about and spend a huge amount of time on the thing that is useless. So when I see this kind of behavior happening again and again and again, it tells me that this person has a really backwards, like, cognition layer in their mind, and they're not able to weigh things correctly and prioritize things correctly. This layer of the mind is also responsible for, like, planning, thinking out into the future, breaking things down into chunks, scheduling them, delegating them to other people, and planning and contingencies. Like, what happens if this happens, then we should do that, or if that happens, then we should do this. It's like a really powerful layer of the mind, and it's also good at problem solving. So, you know, problems come up all the time, and this layer of the mind will help you solve it. How do you troubleshoot a problem? Like, what are the different mental models that you view the problem through? What are the different perspectives that you flick between? And what are the different problem-solving methodologies and frameworks and things that you deploy when you come into contact with a problem, right? This is mental cognition. We've also got pattern recognition. So how easily you're able to spot patterns in your own behavior, in your life, in your business, in the data that you see for ads, in your accounts, in the way your industry is evolving. It's like pattern recognition is very, very important. And, you know, when you study billionaires, you'll notice that they're hyper aware. they are extremely aware, they catch things, they catch details, and they can see things that other people can't even see about themselves, right? It's almost like they have X-ray vision. They've got like a clairvoyance, right? This hyper-awareness isn't, you're not born with it. It's made. You can teach it to yourself. It just takes practice. And then the cognition layer, billionaires are amazing at this. Their problem-solving abilities, they can just go brrr, bam, find it, done. Before before anyone else has even processed the information. And they're also able to prioritize things properly. Like they're able to put things back in queue, say no to things, ignore lots of things, and focus on the key important things. And that's why this layer is of exceptional importance. Then your business principles. So where am I going to write this one? I think we'll put it... We'll just put it here, if you can still see it here. Business principles. What are these? So these are your values and your beliefs about how to run a business. And these things are crucial. And so, at these base layers, we're not even getting into business. So like down here, we're not even learning business skills. We're learning mental awareness and problem solving and mental models and cognition, all of this. And then we're only getting into business on this layer upwards, right? And business principles are different like beliefs you have about business. So I'll give you some of mine, for example. Like I run an online education company, and so I need a central point of focus, one thing that I always default on. And that is like student obsession. Like the student is the most important person in the equation. So whenever I have to make a trade-off or anything, I think, what does the student want? If the student was here and they were listening to this, what would they choose? What's best for them? Not what's best for me, not what's best for different people in the company, not what's best for profitability or margin, what's best for the student through their eyes. So that's like a principle, student obsession. Another one would be that we focus on cash flow. So, we're not too concerned about profit margins or profits or quarterly profits or anything to do with profits or earnings. What I'm most interested in is cash flows, and specifically long-term future cash flows. That is what I'm focused on. And so, this is very different. A lot of business people, they've just got their eyes fixated on profits, right? And all they want is profits. But in my belief system, I think profits, people who do that are kind of silly because they're leaving themselves open for somebody to come in and take their market away from them by just simply not making as much profit. That's leaving yourself open to a very easy place to attack. And also you have to pay a lot of taxes, and it's highly inefficient. And you're also not investing a lot back into the business, into research and development and things like this. So this is just one principle. So, I've got student obsession, I'm cash flow focused or long-term future cash flow focused. And also I think about the long term. So if something's going to make my company less money this year, but more money in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from now, I'll take the long-term one anytime, right? So that's another one. And also thinking from first principles. So I like to have in my company like an idiosyncratic kind of method of thinking. So I like to think differently and not just follow the crowd. And so instead of just doing what everyone else is doing, what we will do is we'll look at it and break it down to its first principles. We'll break out this thing into its different constituent parts. We'll analyze all of them, weigh all of them, and then find the best way to reassemble these constituent parts to achieve an optimal outcome, instead of just doing what everyone else is doing. And what this leads to is quite abnormal behavior, to be honest. A lot of things that a lot of people are really obsessed about, I completely ignore, and people think I'm an idiot for doing it. And then a lot of the things that people never touch, I obsess about. And they think that I'm stupid for doing that, right? This is idiosyncratic thinking, and it's the byproduct of having like a first principles kind of worldview and a scientist's worldview instead of just, like a fashion point of view.